Hi guys, so our last learning target here, learning target 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to use data and we're going to be able to explain factors affecting our carrying capacity. And we're going to define that in a few moments, but basically carrying capacity is how many individuals a ecosystem can support. Okay, so learning target 4. So population growth patterns. We're going to talk a lot about population. So population, remember, is the same species. Okay. So the size of a population is always changing, and we can see that with humans, right? Our population size does not stay the same. Right now we are increasing a ton with different birth rates and stuff like that. 4 factors are going to affect the size of a population. We have immigration. Immigration, people are moving in. Okay, so we have in and im. Immigration, people are moving in. Then we have births, obviously. We have emigration, which is they're going out or they're exiting an area. Okay, so exit and E. Okay, emigration is exit. And then we have deaths. So these 4 will affect a population size. So if we just look at Fargo, okay, we have people moving into Fargo that are going to affect our population size. We have births that are occurring that's going to increase our population size. We have people leaving Fargo, and then also we have people dying as well. So these 2, number 1 and number 2, are going to increase the population. 3 and 4 are going to decrease the population. Okay, we have a couple of population growth patterns. The first one is exponential growth. And this is just a rapid population increase due to abundance of resources. And here's our key right here. Abundance of resources. So that means as many resources as you could possibly need as possible as you want. Okay, these are ideal conditions. And one example right now is the human population growth. And so our human population, okay, back in the day, it started out nice and slow, but as we got, better medicine, better houses, sanitation, stuff like that, our population skyrocketed. Okay, so this is an example of exponential growth. And so you will be looking at different graphs on this as well. Okay, so exponential growth, it just skyrockets. Another example is the rabbit population. Okay, rabbits have an exponential growth pattern as well in areas where they have abundance. Then we have logistic growth, and this is due to a population facing limited resources. Okay, logistical growth, limited resources, and so in a logistic growth model, we are going to reach this thing we call carrying capacity. Okay, so carrying capacity is basically the maximum number of individuals in a population that the environment can support. Okay, so we have this max line. And so what you're going to see, so a logistical growth graph looks like this. You can see this kind of S shape. Exponential is where it just kept increasing. That's exponential. Logistical growth is going to hit a cap. So it's going to kind of look like an S. And so if it were to go on, it would literally kind of flatten out like that. Our carrying capacity on these graphs is going to be the max number of individuals, okay? So whatever population size we're talking about here, its max carrying capacity is going to be this line. Okay, sometimes the growth of the population will go above the carrying capacity. However, the environment can't support it, so it will go back down and it'll kind of fluctuate on this line. Okay, so we have exponential growth and logistic growth. Okay, we also have this thing called a population crash that can happen sometimes. This is just a dramatic decline in the size of the population over a short period of time. So as we can see in this graph, our fish kill events, okay, are the blue bars. And we can see from July to October, they have a population crash. And that might be due to more fishing and stuff like that, or it could be due to the rainfall. So as the rainfall decreased, our fish population decreased as well. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about limiting factors. So what limits a population from just growing like crazy? Okay. So a limiting factor is a factor that keeps the size of a population down. Okay, that's why a lot of animals, okay, they don't have an exponential growth pattern because they have these limiting factors. Now, density dependent, this is really, really important. So star it, highlight it, something, okay? Because we're going to talk about density dependent and density independent, okay? These are limiting factors that depend on the size of population, okay? So density dependent limiting factors depend on the size of the population. The first one is disease, which is what we're in right now, right? We're dealing with COVID-19, and we know that areas with a large population, okay, they're getting more sick, they're getting infected and stuff like that. If you look at New York versus North Dakota, they have more cases because there are so many people so close together. When in North Dakota, like Fargo is going to have more cases than the small towns out in rural western North Dakota. Okay, so disease, more people, the disease is going to be spread to more often to more people. Okay, we have predation, so predators and prey. Okay, so predators can only eat so many prey. Okay, so as you can see in this graph right here, this is a predator-prey relationship. And so the rabbit is the blue line and the lynx is the red line. As you can see, as our predator numbers go down, what happens to our prey numbers? Well, they're going to go up, right? Because there's like no animals to eat them. And then as the prey numbers go up, look what happens to our predator numbers. They go up, right? Because they have abundance of food. And so they will kind of follow this same pattern as we go on in years. Okay, and then we have competition as well. And so if animals are competing for mates or food, obviously the more animals competing for food it's going to determine how many of those animals survive. So density dependent. And then we have density independent factors. So this does not depend on the size of a population. More often than not, this is going to be like weather. Okay, so weather, natural disasters. Okay, a hurricane can hit in an area with low population or high population. Okay, it doesn't matter how many people are there. The hurricane's going to hit there if it's going to hit there. We have human impact. Okay, so if there's some sort of forest, okay, and we are tearing down the trees, it doesn't depend on how many trees are there. We need the trees for firewood, houses, and stuff like that. And so that population is going to go down. Okay, so density independent factors do not depend on the size. Okay, more often than not, that's going to be weather, natural disasters. Okay, then we have this thing called population distribution. So this is how our population distributes itself in its ecosystem. And so we have clumped. Okay, this is going to be most common, and this is what humans do. So this is an example of clumped right here. Okay, as humans, we tend to clump in cities. Okay, so we have Fargo, we have Moorhead, we have Bismarck over in the middle of the state. Okay, granted, yes, we do have farmers and ranchers out in North Dakota that aren't very clumped, but more often than not, okay, humans are going to clump together in those towns, in those cities. And then we have uniform. So this is when resources are scarce. And so there's not a ton of resources. I like to think of this, so uniform, as like a Christmas tree farm. Because the farmers will plant the trees kind of uniformly so they have enough resources to feed those Christmas trees so they get nice and big. And then we have random. So this is when resources are plentiful. And so basically, animals, organisms are just going to be kind of random in their population. A good example of this is just like the fish in the ocean. Okay, fish in the ocean, they're not going to be uniform. Some are clumped and stuff like that, but more than likely it's going to be just kind of random wherever you find those. Okay, so population distribution. Okay, so again, clumped. So I know I said fish is kind of random, but they can be clumped as well. So they move in these schools, clumped. Okay, random. If you look in a forest, you're going to see that different types of trees are very random. That's because we have seed distribution. Okay, so the wind picks up the seeds and puts them wherever. And then this example, uniform, kind of like penguins. Okay, they have their own territory. They're going to be kind of uniform. Okay, so we have clumped, random, and uniform.